Hello and welcome to another episode of Campsol Through Time. This week we're looking at the history of money, cash is king, and how currencies and coins and banknotes have changed over the years in Spain. The expert on this subject in the studio with me today is our very own historian and time traveller, Antonio Hernandez Benitez. Antonio, we're back.
Hello.
This is nice. I like to see this cash on the table. Not that I'll be able to spend it these days. There's so much, and this is all Spanish, yeah?
Oh, yeah, for sure, all Spanish.
So where do we start?
Well, perhaps obviously we have different currencies in Spain, all from the beginning of Spain as a country, and even before, from the Romans, and even before the Romans, there were different currencies, different coins, and different things. But I think it's better if we start today from the 20th century somehow.
Okay.
Okay.
So I've noticed there's some very, very delicate note here. This one is that right, a 1 peseta note?
1 peseta note.
Okay. It's very small.
Yes.
Tell us about that one little note.
Basically this is from the 50s actually.
Just pick it up and I'll show the people at home.
And it was the normal currency that they used to use in the everyday life. Okay. And that's why the state of the note is not good as the other ones that you can find of 100 pesetas, for instance, or 50 pesetas. Basically because the notes of 100 pesetas is like the equivalent nowadays of 500 euros, for instance.
So people look after them.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. The one of 1 peseta is like the equivalent of 5 euros, you know, like the note. So it's obviously something that you use every day, so you get damaged.
Of course, yeah. So you'd have a wad of those in your pocket and maybe just one of these stashed away somewhere else.
So sometimes, you know.
If you're lucky.
You're lucky.
So with the pesetas as a currency, my first visit to Spain, it was euros. I think it changed over at the turn of the century, didn't it?
Yeah, the beginning of the 21st century is when we changed actually.
Yeah. So up to then, there was what denominations and where do we start on our timeline? Let's talk about our timeline here. So which was the earliest?
Well, the peseta started in the Victorian times.
Right.
Okay. So we are talking about we have the peseta currency more than 100 years. Okay. For instance, one thing that I have here is, for instance, these peseta notes is actually from 100 years ago. Okay.
This is a note from 100 years ago.
Exactly, from 1925.
Wow.
Okay. So
remarkably good
all
condition.
during the 20th century, we are going to have pesetas. Right from the beginning of the 20th century until the end of the 20th century, we will have pesetas. It's actually when we joined the euro currency in the 21st century when we changed into euro. Okay.
But the journey of pesetas has been sort of up and down. I can't help but notice all these different ones here. We'll come to them in a sec. Because the Civil War had an impact on the money, didn't it? So
yeah, basically.
How did that happen?
Well, you have to think, as we were saying before, I mean, Spain is divided in 2 different fronts, the Republican side and the national side or the Franco side, okay, which are fighting each other. So both of them, they will have their own currency. They will have peseta, but they will have their own pesetas. Okay. So Franco is the one who is actually starting his own peseta. I have one little coin from actually the Spanish Civil War.
This one here with a hole in it?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a 1 peseta coin. What's it made of? Is it nickel or a bit of silver?
No, silver. It was nickel or even a mix of different metals, majority of the times.
Okay.
Okay. And we have to think as well that the peseta notes, majority of them, they were printed in England. Okay, as you can see in the bottom of the big notes of 100 pesetas, they actually says printed in England.
Okay.
Okay. So actually, until the Republican times as well, you can see around here, for instance, those notes from 1935. Okay,
just before the war.
Just before the war.
Yeah.
It was printed actually in England as well. Okay. Because
it says it in tiny writing at the bottom. I know you probably can't see that at home because our cameras aren't good enough, but that was printed in England in 1935.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. And this is one of the, you say, on the Republican side.
Exactly. So because of the war as well, the borders are going to be shut in Spain, and so it's going to be very difficult for the Republican side to get this money printed from England. Okay, so there's going to be a lack of money somehow, a lack of notes. somehow to solve all this problem, around here in this area, talking locally, every single district or every single town hall is going to create their own money.
Right.
Okay? And it's going to be somehow, they will say, like, after the war, they will exchange it into proper pesetas. Okay?
So what would be proper pesetas after the war? Because you've got Franco's pesetas. And you've
Well,
got
they were not expecting to lose the war.
Right.
Okay, that's why they were expecting, like, they will exchange into proper pesetas. And as well, they were thinking, like, even if Franco wins, they will be able to use it, those pesetas. Actually, was not the case. For instance, my grandmother, she used to have different notes from different councils, you know, from Mazarrón, from Alhama, from Totana, from Spain, from the Spanish Republican government, and she have to burn all of them. They have to destroy all the savings, because it was obviously in those days you can be suspicious to be part of the Republican.
Oh, very much like we spoke about in a previous episode, where if you were Republican, then at the end of the war, because the Nationalists won, you had to get rid of all your equipment, all your clothes, uniforms, sorry,
Exactly.
and anything that associated you with that side, because obviously the Nationalists wouldn't have liked you to be associated with it. So they had to get rid of their money as well.
Yes, and as well, Franco is going to say, like, it's not valid. You cannot exchange pesetas from the Republican government into the new pesetas, which are going to be actually from Franco. So this means, like, all this area is going to be automatically poor, absolutely poor and extremely poor. No savings, no money at all. So the only way to get the Franco currency is working with them.
Right.
Okay? Which is going to be very difficult, because at the moment there is, especially in the first few years, only people who are working for the state, they will get paid with Franco money.
So farmers, farmhands,
Majority
builders.
of them, nothing at all.
So how would they get paid in those days?
Well, for instance, my family, they used to get paid with food, and they used to exchange as well different things. For instance, if they were working on fields, collecting the crops, they used to get paid with grain or different fruits or different things that they used to collect.
This is less than 100 years ago.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I remember, for instance, when I was a child, my grandmother telling, and the family telling how difficult they were the first few years right after the war, because it was nearly impossible for them to get money. Okay, because they used to work for someone who didn't have money. Okay, so they used to get paid with things that actually they were doing over there. So if you are working, for instance, in Consum, one example, no, the supermarket on Campsol, you will get paid with food from the supermarket.
Right.
Okay. Well,
do you get to pick the aisle? Because I know which my favourite one would be. It seems that because it's less than 100 years ago, and this, I've always associated maybe the Middle Ages, or, you know, sort of a long time ago, where people use the bartering system like this, and they just get paid in stuff.
Yes.
Back Egyptian times and things like this. I didn't have a clue. It was actually the norm around here less than 100 years ago.
You have to think, like, as I was saying before, like, Cartagena is the last city to surrender to Franco. So they have to be, according to his ideology or according to his government, have to be a punishment to the population.
So it's punitive,
okay?
Because...
So basically, it's a question of politics, I think. It's just my opinion, you know, but that's why they cancel all this money, and people, actually, they were really struggling during the first few years, seriously struggling.
Yeah, it's a legacy of the whole change in the Spanish way over the 20th century. I notice you've got here some different notes. Now, these do look very different to these. Are these what you call the standard notes? They were either Republican or Nationalist, but they were also all pesetas of that. Now, can you just run us through a few of these?
Well, those are actually copies. I have a collection of copies, because it's very difficult to find the original ones, actually, from the money that they were actually during the Spanish Civil War around this area. And there were different notes, and there were different, like, the different councils they were making themselves. Okay. For instance, we have the one from Mazarrón, which is right over here, and it says it's 1 peseta, and basically the stamp of the mines, they will be there.
It's difficult to see with the lights. Let me just take it down a bit. So you've got the mine, you see the mines there. Now this is actually paid by the mine companies.
Exactly.
You've got the stamp on the back. so it's a bit difficult to see in the lights. But so that was a unit of currency. Could somebody who worked in a binance go down to the shop and buy bread with this?
Yeah, for sure. In those days, yes. That's why, for instance, my grandmother, because she used to, I mean, when we are living in an area like Campsol, or near Campsol, you are in the border between different districts. You know, like very close to you is Totana, which is, for instance, El Paletón is already Totana. Condado Lama is Alama. Okay. Los Cánovas is Fuente Álamo. La Pinilla is Fuente Álamo. So when you're just traveling a little bit, you're changing like from Mazarrón to Alama to Fuente Álamo.
And they couldn't spend this in Fuente Álamo?
No, normally no. They have to be local.
It's
But plenty of people, they used to accept it. They used to exchange.
Of course, because they can travel and bring them back. So it's,
Exactly.
it's trade, it's the development
Exactly.
of trade. This little one here we've got, so this is going to bleed out on the camera, but I'll try and show you. That one there. That is, it says, vale por 20 céntimos.
Basically, the same as there were notes made by the different councils, as well different companies, they used to do their own vouchers, okay, which is most of the times it was some kind of payment as well to people, not only a discount voucher. Okay, so plenty of people they used to have. For instance, my grandmother, she used to have a lot, and she used to say like, when she used to go into a shop, they used to show they used to have big piles of different notes from different councils or different companies and so on, and they used to ask, ¿Esto vale? Is it okay, the value of this? Okay, and they used to check, and they used to say, okay, este vale, este no vale. They used to say, yes, this is okay for this one, it's okay, it's not
vale.
okay for that.
And the Spanish word vale,
From value, from valer.
It's derived from value because of the note, and that's why if you say okay in Spanish, you go vale.
Basically, yes.
Okay, I like that. And this is one from a particular business.
Yeah, it's something about the cars, actually.
And this, I suppose, this sort of filled a real gap, because if you weren't allowed the not nationalists, the Republican money, like you say, everyone was poor, and probably including businesses, including managers, including people that were probably quite wealthy ordinarily, they became poor very quickly.
Oh yeah,
but they were still in business, so they created their own credit system, and it's like one step further than the barter system. Rather than saying, oh, I'm going to give you 100 bags of flour, I'm going to give you this ticket, which then you can go spend it with my mate who makes bicycles or makes whatever else. And so it's the development of currency, which over humanity has taken 5,000 years. And this all happened in Matheron, not only Matheron, but in Matheron,
around the area,
small towns, and it developed over a period of, 20 years, this?
Something like that. Yes.
That's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. This book, by the way, is great. There is, it's all for
It's a collection, basically,
It's a
of
collection.
different
and there are so
copies of different
many.
notes. Yes.
Well, if I flick through very gently, you'll see.
You can find from Jumilla, from Lorca, from
so many.
Calasparra, from Cartagena.
Like I said before, I'm looking forward to going to your your museum and
gotta
having a
charge
closer
you.
look. Of course, I don't mind. I don't mind. That's brilliant, absolutely fabulous. So we've talked about the cash in the 20th century. We are going to look at another time. We are going to look at sort of Roman Bronze Age and going through the Moorish, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Love to do all that as well. This has been fascinating. And it's just that journey between, since the end of the Civil War, a currency being taken, filled in by notes, and then and it getting back to normality over a period of time.
Oh yeah.
And after all that, you then converted to the euro at the end of the 20th century. Fascinating, Antonio. Thank you very much for coming in and showing us these amazing exhibits. It really is fascinating, isn't it, when you get into the nitty-gritty of things like this, and they're sort of little stories about here around Campsol, Matheron, and places where we like to call home. That's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching Campsol TV, and we're here at the same time next week with another episode of Campsol Through Time. Thanks very much. Ta-ra.
Thank you.
Brilliant.